Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, which will be all about AI. My name is Anouk. I am Polaron's Marketing and Communications Coordinator. And before we dive in, I would like to remind everyone to please leave your comments and questions in the Q&A box, as we will be having a live Q&A after the session. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and social media channels. Today we are going to cover, the pros and cons of AI in the citizenship process. How accurate is it? How does the privacy look like? And about legal reliability, and also the great importance of human expertise and why it still matters in today's world. And then the Q&A that I mentioned. Today we are here with Eva Hussain. She is Polaron's founder and director and has been helping people reclaim EU citizenship since 2003. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
and
you.
Then we
Hi, everyone.
Also have Tibe here, who is our senior citizenship specialist. She expertises in Polish, German, and Czech citizenship. Thank you so much for being here, Tibe. So a little bit about Polaron itself. Since 2002, we've been helping over 15,000 people obtain their EU citizenship. We do everything from beginning to end, so the eligibility assessment, the research, until the very point where you can go get your passport. So we also do free eligibility assessment and calls. So if you need us, we are always here at any time available to help you. I really encourage you to scan the code to visit our website or mail us. Tibe's booking link will also be shared. So without further ado, I will pass this over to Eva.
Thank you so much, Anouk, and hi, Tibe. So this topic comes up all the time, everywhere. People do want to know whether they can use AI in the citizenship applications. And we've also noticed, I think you'll confirm for us, that people, even when they write emails to you, they use AI, and you can tell right away, right? But what are some of the pros and cons? Firstly, why do people use AI, do you think?
Yeah, so I do receive a lot of emails where I can definitely tell that they have been written by ChatGPT, let's say, just because it's more convenient, I guess, for a lot of people. It saves them time, and then they have to do some minor changes, I guess, here and there. But overall, it's just a very helpful tool to save time, especially during busy days. So I understand why people are drawn to it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it, of course. Technology will progress whether we like it or not. But as you say, it is a tool that people use to manage their information, and it helps them, remember things and organize what they want to say or what they've heard from you. And that's great. But what are some of the risks, do you think, of using AI? What happens if you use it without understanding all the risks?
Yeah, I think the biggest risk here is that you don't really know what's going to happen with the information that you are sharing. So I personally would recommend people who are planning on sharing personal things or maybe some names, or even when it's about, and let's say, do getting some information regarding how to process a payment or something like this, to never share any sort of personal details, because in the end you don't really know what is happening with all of that information and what they might use it for without your knowledge. So that's definitely something to be careful about.
Right, sorry, my computer's just frozen, and that goes to show how wonderful technology is at times. Okay, and of course, I hope you don't mind if I bring this up, but being of a certain generation, you yourself care more maybe than people like me who are older about environment and what happens. For example, with drinking water. So we know that, for example, when we write an email using ChatGPT, we use half a liter of drinking water to do that. So there's that aspect of things where we actually relinquish control of our environment and other things. People don't think about it. It's easy enough to just go chat GPT, write me an email or whatever it is that people say, without thinking of the other risks that don't necessarily come to mind immediately. But I think a lot of people worry about that as well. It's also a risk, right?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's as popular as the whole idea of ChatGPT itself, and everything that you would see promoted by it on social media platforms, especially TikTok, which is very popular in my generation and younger, is all the things you can do using ChatGPT or using AI platforms. But it's not really going to talk much about what happens behind the scenes actually and how harmful it actually is. Even if you're just generating one silly picture or if you're just generating one email, it has a lot of effects on our on our nature, I guess you could say. And
Mhm.
it's not definitely as much talked about as all the other things AI can do. So it is something
Yeah.
interesting to look further into. And personally, I do try to limit my use of ChatGPT, but
Okay.
that's also the only AI platform that I use. So I encourage other people to do it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not all doom and gloom, of course, but there are privacy issues, as you mentioned, security threats, also misinformation, and kind of loss of control of information as we know it. Um, so thank you for sharing that. But you've also got on the slide there that AI doesn't understand legal complexities. Just the one before. Sorry, Anouk. What do you mean by that? What do we mean by changing nature of citizenship laws? Do we mean that it doesn't get into the engines, let's say, quickly enough, or what do we mean there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to understand with AI or ChatGPT in this instance is that it's getting its information from the internet, so everything that is available online. So, for example, if you will ask ChatGPT a question about something in regards to your eligibility, it will get the information to you that is available online today. But laws are constantly somehow changing or talked about. And especially in our company, we do have close connections with governmental bodies where we can actually reach out to people in these places and ask specific questions and get an actual answer to that question. But that doesn't mean that this information will be available online, because a lot of things are just changing along the way. And it's definitely not the case that it will be available digitally as soon as it would be if you just kind of pick up the phone and make your call, have a question, have a chat.
Sure.
And yeah, it's not the same for sure.
And the good old garbage in, garbage out, of course, also applies. So sometimes, and I know that there are lots of discussions on different forums. You have Facebook groups, you have WhatsApp groups, you have all kinds of places where people rely on each other to, it's sort of like crowdsourcing spaces.
Mhm.
And we find that there's a lot of misinformation there about basic things. And it kind of makes our job a little bit harder because we have to, so every now and then we have someone arguing with us about a particular thing, saying, oh, but, I've read it on Reddit and, the group said this, that, or whatever.
Mhm.
And that's All right. Let's just wait for that to happen. Hello, Earth to Anouk.
Yes, you're back.
Oh,
Sorry,
it was me.
Rose turn. Sorry. Would you like me to
That's all
go
right.
to the
Yes, next slide. Thank you. Mhm. All right. So we've covered this a little bit already, Chibe, but talk to us about accuracy first. What do we mean by that?
Yes, I think this is a very interesting topic, and it's also something that I will get back to after the next slide. So, in terms of accuracy, if you, for example, want to learn about what your eligibility is like for a certain citizenship, then a lot of people would just start a conversation with ChatGPT, explain their family history, and then you know, just listen to what it says. But it's not accurate, which I will also be showing with clear examples later on. So that will be very interesting to have a further look at. But yeah, it's
Okay.
it just isn't. Yeah.
Okay, and then we're talking about citizenship laws, which are nuanced, and they also people need to remember produced in other languages. So, when they're written, so in the case of Polish laws, for example, or Czech laws, they go back to 1920. And the language they were written in is very, very different. We're talking about 100 years on. So AI will not understand all the nuances of the laws. And you did say here on your slide there, Chiba, that they're country specific and interlinked. What do we mean by interlinked? How does that work?
Well, I'm actually not 100% sure. Anouk, do you?
I have an answer. So,
Okay.
for example, I have an answer for everyone. So, when you talk about Polish laws, for example, there's the citizenship laws, which have changed over time from 1920. But there's a law to do with military service, which links in with the citizenship laws. So you need to know, for example, that if somebody served in the military before 1951 in Poland, they may have lost their Polish citizenship, things like that. So there are laws that kind of, fit into other laws. So you also need to understand how they interact.
Yeah.
Okay, and AI doesn't update in real time. Is that true? What do we mean there? Because things have changed and they haven't been published online, or what do we mean there?
Yeah, at least that's what I understand from this is like I mentioned before, just because it's being discussed in real life doesn't mean that it's already published online and therefore
Mhm.
AI would not know about it since it's not available somewhere as a source.
Yeah. Another example I can give everyone that's listening is currently in Poland, there are discussions around changing of laws, citizenship laws. And they only apply to one particular pathway, which is naturalization. So for people that aren't of Polish heritage, I don't know, maybe they married someone in Poland, maybe they moved there for work or whatnot. So Poland's currently discussing extending the waiting times from 5 to 8 years, and they're also discussing citizenship tests. It's the case in many other countries, but lots of clients that are Polish by descent keep contacting us asking whether that's going to affect them. So it's a simple thing that we, of course, explain and say that their eligibility isn't affected. But it's just one example how if you read something online without proper context, you might get a bit confused. The other one is laws in Czech Republic. They have been talking about changing the laws for many months. And it was before Parliament, before the government changed. and now it's off the table. And what they were going to do is extend eligibility to add an extra 20 years. So there's a period of time in Czechoslovakian history where people were not eligible, and now that's no longer going to be the case for the foreseeable future. So again, people contact us and ask and say, oh, well, am I eligible now? So we kind of have to dig in to that information and present it in a way that works. And you did mention data protection, which is the biggest risk, I think, of all when you use technology, right?
Yes, it's always the terms and condition Bible that you have to read through and then accept. And I don't think I've ever met anyone who reads the whole thing.
Yeah, like even if you search something in Google, they actually own your data. People don't know that. And the terms and conditions say so, or even if you use Google Translate or any of their products, they own and because they train their engines on it. And so once something's online, it's out there and you cannot protect it. So and nowadays, there are scams, there are identity fraud. So that's something to be mindful of. All right. Next slide. Thank you. And you say here, and I am agreeing with you 100% that human expertise still matters, right?
Yes, definitely.
So tell us about what you mean there. We say that family stories, things like name changes, missing records, cannot be effectively assessed by AI.
Yes, it's true. So definitely with the unique family stories, because I've personally come across cases that were so incredibly difficult to understand just for myself. And then I'm 100% sure that if I would put all of this information into an AI or ChatGPT, then I would not receive the information from it that I would by our Polish citizenship manager. So it's just you cannot compare it. And then with working together with someone like us, for example, and there is some issue in your case regarding a name change or regarding a record that is missing, we managed to always figure something out to replace it or make sure that there is some sort of an explanation that we can provide to bring everything to a positive outcome. So that's always something that you need to keep in mind there. So it's always possible that there is a specific requirement that you do not meet or that you do not have, but there's always some way that we could possibly work around it. But that's also just because we have a lot of experience with this.
Right.
And yeah, that's not the case for an AI, I suppose.
Yeah, and you need human flexibility and creativity sometimes to be able to explain things, and just also bearing in mind that when we file our applications, it'll be dealt by humans at the other end. So whether it's German, Czech, Polish, or any other citizenships that we work with,
Yeah.
it'll be a human person assessing applications. So whilst laws are laws and there's not much discretion within them, sometimes, as you said, we need to present the information in a particular way that is just easy and simple for a person to assess it at the other end. The other example I wanted to bring to the table is this is for German citizenship in particular. So sometimes people are told by consulates that they can apply directly for passports because they were born German. And that's really great news for everybody, except that we caution against that. Or rather, we say, yep, great, apply for the passport, but make sure you still go through the process of confirming your citizenship. Having been in this space for more than 20 years, I know that, the way that laws are interpreted changes. So, passport is a travel document. And of course, you have to be a citizen to get a German passport, that's clear. But what if consulates no longer accept the way or follow the way that they currently use? And AI won't tell you that. Lots of people will say to you, "Oh yeah, go and get a passport. It's fine." But you're not actually holding anything that confirms your citizenship. So this is just one example of where we would very much disagree with AI and say, look, still go through the process because in 10 years' time, when you renew your passport, you just don't know if the consulate will renew it unless you have your citizenship papers intact. And you mentioned here empathy. What do you mean there? Are we, more empathetic than robots? Is that what we're saying?
Yes. Well, I have come across cases, and many of my colleagues too, and I'm sure yourself as well, where people just have a really incredible family history story to tell. And things like this have an impact on your application, depending on what it is, of course. But at the end, we're all human and we all have feelings, and we can show empathy and we can envision things, how it may have been and how difficult it would be, maybe due to some things that happened in the past, certain documentation, for example, is just no longer available. And of course, if you would just say, oh, I don't have it, then there is not really much to be an empath about. But if you can look at the full story, then it's a different scenario.
You're so right. And I think, people, stories and histories can also be such a precious gift. Like in the world of bureaucracy, it doesn't really matter. But when people come to us, it's very often with, examples of trauma and
Mm.
difficult relationships within different family members. So no AI in the world will care about that. We do, and sometimes it's when you go through the process of citizenship, all these things get uncovered. So we learn so much about people's backgrounds and. In our work, we've discovered that people were adopted, for example, or their father wasn't who they knew all their lives and things like that. So you do need humans to help you handle those emotions and the stories. So we're there for you. All right. Anouk, I think we've got a few minutes for questions. What's the next slide?
Okay.
All right. There's some examples. Go ahead, Tiba.
Yeah. So, because we're on the topic of AI and how trustworthy it is, I thought it would have been a really great idea to put ChatGPT in particular to the test here. So all the examples will be about Polish citizenship. So I apologize for any other citizenship listeners, but this is just to set an example here.
There's a taste, yeah.
Yes. So first of all, I asked ChatGPT about my great-grandparents. It's not true, but he doesn't know that. So my great-grandparents left Poland before 1918. So basically on this, first thing that I really find annoying is you can see that it's using words such as likely, which will pop up, yeah, right there.
Yeah.
So that's already, for myself, it's a red flag because I like to be sure about where I stand. Um, and then based on the information that my great-grandparents left, I told him they left in 1906, whatever. He is saying based on this information alone, you would not be eligible for Polish citizenship by descent, which is very misleading because that is just simply not true. It is more tricky, that is true, but he is just basically saying you can give up now. So that's already a no-go. And then on the next slide.
And I love, by the way, how you're calling him ChatGPT him, because it's true that a lot of techies are men. So I think there's also a lot of biases. But in all seriousness, languages like German, Polish, or Czech are gendered languages. So if you try and do your translations through ChatGPT, it'll make you a man if you're a woman.
Yeah.
Basically, what happens, you don't get that in English, but okay. Well, we now know that ChatGPT is a man. Okay, what's your next example?
Yes. So the next thing I asked him is about my great-grandfather being born in Poland in 1880. And then I told him that he naturalized in the USA in 1930. I also told him that my grandfather never naturalized because he was insinuating something that if my grandfather naturalized in the US, I would not be eligible, but
Mm-hmm.
you cannot naturalize in a country you were granted citizenship by birth. So, okay.
Right.
So that's all already. Ooh. But
Wrong. Yeah.
okay. So I told him, right, he naturalized in 1930. Does this affect my eligibility in any way? So then here you can see that he is saying that because my great-grandfather naturalized in 1930, it is not a problem because it happened after my grandfather's birth, which is simply not
Completely
true.
incorrect. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And the reason to why is a little bit more complex, but I'll try to explain it as well as I can. So dual citizenship in Poland was not allowed until 19th of January 1951. There is
Mm-hmm.
only one exception here, and that is for men who were subject to military conscription until the age of 50. Later, during the Second World War, it was until the age of 60, but let's not focus on that. So, my great-grandfather here, he would have turned 50 years old in 1930. So,
Mm-hmm.
this would mean that he lost his Polish citizenship in 1930, and that also includes his wife and his minor children. So, in this example, my grandfather, he was still a minor and therefore also lost his Polish citizenship, and therefore I am not eligible for Polish citizenship through my great-grandfather. So I hope that makes sense. But let's see the next one. So then here I was talking about military service, which we also discussed a little bit earlier because this does or can potentially affect your eligibility as well. So I asked my friend ChatGPT here what it means if my grandfather served for the US military from 1938 to 1940. And he is clearly stating again, as you can see here, that it does not affect my citizenship, which again is not true. Because since my grandfather, if he held Polish citizenship, and he served this time period, then he would have lost his Polish citizenship as they were not Allied forces at this time. That was only after 1941. So this also means that ChatGPT again is wrong.
Mm.
Okay. And then, yes, then the last one. I wanted to touch on the topic of your female ancestors because a lot of people do not know this actually, but it is really tricky to claim Polish citizenship through a female ancestor. So I asked here, again, in the same situation for both my great-grandparents who were Polish, and they married before my grandfather was born. In this instance, my grandfather was born in 1920. So he was born in wedlock. And I asked if I can claim it through either parent. So if I could claim it through my great grandmother. And then, as you can see here, he is saying that it could be either from the mother or the father, regardless of the marriage status, which again is not true.
Mm.
So how it works here is all children who were born inside of wedlock before 19th of January 1951, they could only acquire their father's citizenship status.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, that is how it works. And then if we click one more time on the slide, he said here that I don't even need to provide any documents for my great grandfather because the maternal line works independently, which is just not true. So I think we can tell here that ChatGPT is not very qualified for this. You should definitely talk to us and save your time and save the planet. Don't do like I did. Just for the case of this presentation, I asked it a few questions, but I'll keep it at that.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's brilliant because now we can see examples of where the information is completely incorrect. And look, we have a few questions, few minutes for questions. So go ahead, Anouk.
Yeah, so we have someone asking, or explaining that their grandparents came from Poland in 1912 and 1915. They themselves lived in Poland in 1989 to 90 and 1995 to 96 and can speak some Polish. And I'm guessing they want to know if they might be eligible.
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, in those days, people that lived in Poland or that returned to Poland, let's say, would have had to have their citizenship confirmed. I don't think it's likely that they were in Poland, let's say, as US citizens in 1980s or 90s. So if they went back, which is what this sounds like, it's probably that they got citizenship at the time, and therefore most likely this person would also be eligible.
Thank you. I also have another question. So do the translations that need to be done by a company, does that company need to be based in the country that they are applying citizenship for?
Great question. The answer is yes and no. So let me explain. So in Poland, we have, and Germany and Czechia, we have this institution of sworn translator, meaning that you have to be qualified, but also registered with like Department of Justice, let's say. If you want your translations done for citizenship, the best thing to do is find a translator or a company that provides sworn translation service in country. But you can also go to a translator in the country you're based in, let's say US, and then submit it through the consulate. So the consulate is kind of in charge of checking local translations. So they will approve it. Usually they charge a fee for that. So for that reason, for example, we have a number of translators that work for us directly in Poland. So to avoid any complications with jurisdictions and stuff like that, we work with sworn translators in country.
Interesting. Do we have time for another?
Go for it.
Yeah. So do I need to visit Poland or any other the country that they are applying for to obtain my passport or any other time during this process?
Great question. Tiba, did you want to have a go or would you like me to?
I can have a go.
Please do.
You do not need to be present in the country of where you're applying for the citizenship. Also for the passport application, you can just do it at your nearest consulate, wherever you may be located. Only important thing to note is that if you are, for example, making an appointment at a consulate for your passport to be picked up there, it must be the same consulate. So where you will apply for it is also where you will be picking it up. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yes, and you cannot ask somebody else to pick it up on your behalf. So it does need to be yourself, or some consulates will post it to you through courier or a postal service, but another person cannot pick it up on your behalf. So that's just something to bear in mind. And the reason for all of that is, of course, that they're highly personal documents. And when you apply for a passport, for European passports, you have to go through the biometric procedure, which includes collecting your fingerprints and your signature and things like that. So passports are actually made in country. So if you go for your passport appointment through the consulate doesn't produce passports. They're made in Europe. But they collect through, through electronic means, your fingerprints, your signature. They scan your photo in. And then once the passport is made in Germany, Poland, Czechia, wherever, then they send it to the consulate for collection, and you either pick it up or you can ask them to post it to you. Cool. I think we might be done. We are a little bit over time, so apologies, everyone, but it's been a very interesting discussion. So I did want to say thank you for Tiba for doing all the research and showing us very clearly how you just need to be cautious when you use AI. I'll just hand over to you, Anouk, just for a minute to tell us how we get in contact with Tiber and what people need to do if they want to know more.
Yes, so an email will follow to those who joined with the contact details, a direct booking link to get in touch with Tiber. And in the meantime, you can email us or call us to the information you see on the screen. So email is always citizenship@polaron.com.au, or you can call us through our number. You can also follow us on our Facebook and LinkedIn. And we are also always here on YouTube as well. So
Yep.
I would really recommend everyone, for whatever reason, to reach out to us, and we will always be here to help you as best as we can.
Wonderful. And thank you both. And just as a parting word, you can always get us on the phone. We will respond to emails. We do use technology, but we focus on human customer service. So there's always humans in the loop. Thank you both so much. And thank you everyone for listening today.
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.